Hey guys, it's Syama Maher here, CEO of Scaling Retail, and today we're just chatting a little bit about market updates and news and what we're seeing amidst all of this crazy stuff in the retail industry during this time of coronavirus and the quarantine. So last week we actually had the pleasure of speaking with a few different really great leaders in the industry who were talking about business from a perspective of the retail buyers and what's happening in terms of the buying cycles. You guys may have also noticed that Business of Fashion came out with an article talking really specifically about what it might look like to change the retail calendar. So, how would it look, or how could we reimagine what it looks like to be able to actually have buying cycles much closer to the delivery windows? So, these are some interesting components, and I think we're kind of at a good juncture to unpack a little bit more the fashion retail cycle calendars and what really it ultimately is going to look like if we were to adopt something that was a bit more aggressive. So what's interesting here is that traditionally when it comes to these buying windows, one of the main reasons, guys, why it takes so long between order deliveries and then when they get produced and shipped out is simply because manufacturers need the time to be able to produce. So when you're asking yourself and figuring out, well, why can't we just order something and get it in store a month later? It's because you actually have a limited supply of manufacturers who can actually produce all of those goods during a certain time frame. So if you're looking to standardize delivery dates, then that must mean that you also have to look to standardize and give yourself a longer period of time for manufacturing and for production. It simply just wouldn't work from the standpoint of, hey, I want to produce, everyone's going to be producing and delivering in the month of March because we want to put things in stores, let's say closer to when the product should be selling in that time period. But yet I'm going to be placing orders 3 months in advance. So then how do you actually aggregate all of those orders and how do you actually pull them together in a way where you can actually get those goods in at that period of time? Manufacturers are only so able to produce at one given moment. So you're either looking, guys, I would say, at kind of broadening the scope of manufacturing or looking at investing into other opportunities for manufacturing. And then also possibly taking a look at maybe not having these fixed delivery dates. Does it have to be that spring has to arrive in March, right? When we start to think about weather around the world and how people are receiving products, what if we actually just kind of broke away entirely from the notion of spring summer deliveries having to come in March? What if we actually move the calendar more towards a drop shipment, or rather not drop shipment, but more towards like a drop calendar where you actually had brands that were releasing products at staggering times during the year. Thereby they can actually alleviate what would happen in terms of the time. So if you alleviate the time on the manufacturing side, so let's say all of a sudden it's rolling. So now you have deliveries that are coming in March and April and May and June and July and August, as opposed and all year round, you have different products or brands delivering at these different times of the year. If you can actually break it up in that way and have brands be producing in that capacity, then you won't actually have to deal with this clog of manufacturing. Thanks, Justin. So the manufacturing clog, I actually think, is one of the pieces that's really missing in that Business of Fashion article, which is it's not just brands and it's not just retailers. We also have to be very considerate over labor and manufacturing and how the three of those industries have to come together to be able to really shift the way that consumers are looking at product and to actually be able to change the way in which we look at consumer spending. So one of the other things that kind of came up in that Business of Fashion article and subsequently in the interview that one of the other things that came up was also how we look at sales and how we look at markdowns. Now, sales and markdowns, I think, are often not really considered. They're only considered, I would say, during these big moments of recessions, but then also when we're looking at these concepts of markdown money, or what does it actually mean to be selling goods at full price or at markdown at any given time of the year? Does it make sense on the consumer side? How do we retrain the consumer not to actually be waiting for those sale periods? Again, I think the notion of how we look at sales will also shift dramatically if we start to look at how the supply chain and delivery cadences and cycles. Again, guys, it's not really just about how you're looking at markdowns. It's about what is the newness and how does your brand actually support newness in the market. Hey, Cece, it's nice to see you. Okay, so in other news, we talked a little bit about this new fashion calendar. Manufacturing actually really needs to be considered in this component. A lot of the brands, I think, are also very much on board with changing this cycle. A lot of the retailers, so the specialty stores, are also very much in agreement with that they need to change the cycle. But really, I think yes, it has to be seen when we start to really band everyone together. Okay, what else is going on? So, as of now, a lot of the small businesses out there have been receiving their PPP grants. There is now kind of additional supported information out there about how you're going to go about getting that fully refunded, meaning so you don't actually have to, or forgiven, if you will, so you don't have to go through the process of paying it back. Some of the key components there is that there is a certain percentage that has to be spent on salary for employees. Very, very important that you guys adhere to some of these rules simply because obviously you want to have these loans forgiven. At the same time, right, if it turns out that you weren't actually able to spend those resources in that way, the repayment on those loans is quite low. It's at 1%. So what does that mean for you? Well, if you got the PPP loan and now you ended up investing that into something else to grow your business, as long as the thing that you invested it in to grow your business, you'll be able to pay back that loan at that rate, then it actually might have ended up being a good situation for you from the get-go, right? So that's also something to consider. But hopefully you guys were able to bring back some employees and keep things going. In other news, when it comes to how businesses are doing, what people are doing with their time, et cetera, what's been very interesting to see is still a continuation in the surge of the mask business. It seems these days masks are kind of found everywhere. Everyone's turning their workshop or factory into a mask production component. And I think that there's a lot of promise in that market. That's something that we actually haven't traditionally seen in the US market ever. And now there's an opportunity for a whole new line of personal protection products. So beyond just the traditional mask, I would urge you guys who are looking to diversify your categories to actually take a step back and say, how might I be able to pivot or take advantage of what's happening in terms of demand and be able to actually respond to that in an interesting and creative way. All right, guys, that's all for me in terms of what's going on in my world. We are going to be on Makers Row, Embark Live this week, talking a little bit more about marketing and sales and business development. That's going to be on Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll do another one-on-one live consultation here on Instagram Live. Really excited about that. Mostly excited because these have been really fun and everyone's really gotten a lot out of these one-on-one consultations. And then also, you guys, stay tuned for Forbes. We have an article that's coming out that is... we have an article coming out that's kind of talking about the new ways in which we need to be looking at supply chain. So yes, Justin, personal protection. That's the name of the game. Let's see if the buyers will hook onto that. Crossing my fingers. All right, guys, please keep in touch. You can find me at hello@scalingretail.com. Talk to you soon. Bye.